Imagine this. You're 30,000 feet in the air. You're handcuffed. The only person who can protect you is a U.S. Marshal. But then, you realize something terrifying. The pilot flying your plane isn't who he claims to be, and he's not just a fraud, he's a killer, sent to make sure you don't leave this plane alive. This is the nightmare that unfolds in Flight Risk, a brand new 2025 action thriller directed by none other than Mel Gibson and starring Mark Wahlberg, Dockery, and Topher Grace. But the big question is, does this film soar high with suspense, or does it crash and burn under the weight of its own story? Stick with me as we dive deep into the plot, the performances, and whether Flight Risk is worth your time or just another mid-air disaster. All right, let's set the stage. Flight Risk throws us straight into the action with a high-stakes setup. Dockery plays Madolyn Harris, a tough U.S. Marshal with a past that haunts her. She's assigned to transport a key witness, Winston, played by Mark Wahlberg, who is an accountant turned informant against a dangerous crime family, the Morettis. Winston has been in hiding in a remote part of Alaska after skimming $1 million from his criminal employers. Now, the government needs him alive to testify. But here's where things start getting intense. Madolyn charters a private plane to transport him. A seemingly routine mission, except for one small detail. The pilot. Daryl Booth, played by Topher Grace, is supposed to be just a regular Texan living in Alaska. But Winston, being the numbers guy he is, spots something unusual, a different photo on the pilot's license hidden under the seat. And that's when everything changes. This is where the movie truly starts playing with our nerves. Winston desperately tries to warn Madolyn, but she has her headset on and doesn't hear him. The pilot, sensing the tension, lets his Texan accent slip for just a moment, revealing that he's not Daryl Booth at all. He's a hitman, and his mission? Make sure Winston doesn't leave this plane alive. Cue the struggle. Madolyn barely reacts in time, using her taser to subdue the fake pilot. But now, we have a whole new problem. Who's flying the plane? With no working radio and no one to control the aircraft, Madolyn finds herself in a terrifying situation. She has to take control, all while keeping an eye on the unconscious assassin shackled at the back of the plane. But just when you think things can't get worse, they do. Madolyn manages to get a call out to her superior, Caroline Van Sant. Caroline stresses the importance of keeping Winston alive. He's the key to bringing down the Morettis. But then, the plot thickens. Caroline hesitates when Madolyn asks for immediate backup. Why? Because there's corruption at play. The more she talks, the more it becomes clear. Someone in the system wants Winston dead. That someone is Director Coleridge, a high-ranking official on Moretti's payroll. And Winston? Well, he recognizes the address Coleridge mentions. It's the same beach house he once wired Moretti's money to. This means no one can be trusted. The tension builds as Madolyn realizes she's on her own. No backup, no safe landing. Just her, a bleeding witness, and a hitman who's about to wake up. This is where Flight Risk cranks the action up to full throttle. The assassin regains consciousness, breaks free, and attacks Winston, stabbing him twice. Madolyn fights back, but gets caught in a deadly struggle as the assassin strangles her with a seatbelt. In a last-ditch effort, Winston pulls the knife from his own chest. Yes, full action hero mode, and cuts the belt, freeing Madolyn just in time for her to grab a flare gun and blast the assassin with a burning shot. But even then, the danger isn't over. As the plane approaches the ground, the hitman somehow makes one last attempt to kill them, only for Madolyn to shoot him and send him plummeting from the aircraft to his death. Talk about a satisfying villain exit. And then, just when you think it's all over, bam! One final twist. As Winston is taken away in an ambulance, Madolyn spots a corrupt cop trying to suffocate him. One last gunshot from her, and justice is finally served. The Morettis? They're next. So, is Flight Risk worth your time? If you love tension-filled, high-stakes thrillers set in enclosed spaces like Non-Stop or Air Force One, you're in for a ride. The action is tight, the performances are strong, and Mel Gibson delivers a solid dose of suspense. That being said, the story doesn't break new ground. It's a bit predictable at times, but the execution makes up for it. I'd give Flight Risk a solid 4 out of 5 stars, a thrilling ride, but not necessarily groundbreaking. What do you think? Would you survive a situation like this? Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more movie reviews that keep you on the edge of your seat.